you don't want to roll in the mud with the pigs because you'll both get dirty and only the pigs like it. Somebody that is railing against you, against your company, and saying what a terrible job you're doing or how little they care about you as a human, they just want your product. Those are all opportunities to fly off the handle and tell them what you really think. And you should not do that.
As a marketing agency, you must always be professional. The customer doesn't need to be professional. They're in the privileged position where they can just say whatever they want. It doesn't matter. But you have to always be professional. You always have to treat people with respect and dignity. And it's a disadvantage of just being in this position. You know, with great power comes great responsibility.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I'm your host, Andrew Lowen, and I'm joined as always by Sean. And today we're going to talk about what really grinds our gears. This is more of a therapy session for us, the two of us, that is publicized for everybody. Of course, it is related to crowdfunding and not only working with the creators that we get to work with, but also being creators ourselves, things that grind our gears. You know, I've gone through the process of delivering Kickstarters, and I'm currently, doing that again myself. And then, of course, we've marketed, probably about 500 Kickstarters at this point, or game found Kickstarter backer campaigns. And there are a number of things that just really grind our gears as a marketing team, as creators, and as people. And so this episode is really just dedicated to talking about that, and maybe we'll give you a few tips on how you can avoid doing that. But I hope that each of these things will help you in some way. Whether that is, oftentimes I find, really, I guess, maybe putting it in a different way, the goal of this podcast would be to make it so that you don't fall into any of these traps.
To improve your business-to-business relationships. This is the podcast equivalent of screaming into a pillow. So welcome.
Okay. All right. So let's get into things that really, really grind our gears. You want to start with low effort projects?
Low effort projects. Okay. Yeah. So this is actually something that happened to us this week where we get a lot of leads that come in. We have people on our team that kind of filter through those. And because we get a lot of communications by people, we can't really give a sort of an explanation to everyone why we have decided not to kind of work with them. And kind of one of our main criteria is what we call low effort projects, or projects that we don't think are going to be suited well for Kickstarter. And we had like someone this week kind of reach out, and they got one of these kind of generic responses, and then they kind of had this big blowout and left a negative review and stuff. So
a blowout, like a blowout from like a 6-month-old, having a really hard time.
Yes,
it was a project that was a combination of checkers and chess and backgammon that looked like checkers, chess, and backgammon. That had an internal funding goal of $1 million, and they were launching in 1 week. And these are not exaggerations.
They were live,
and they're live right now. And I think they've raised $1 with $60,000 is their funding goal, and carry on. So we give them a little generic response, and then they
they don't like that. So I don't know if the low effort project kind of annoy me, because I think some people are just trying to do their best and maybe they haven't done as much research, or they just they think this is a great idea and then they're just kind of throwing themselves at the wall, seeing what will stick. But I think it's maybe the low effort with the hubris is probably the thing that kind of grinds the gears, where it's, you don't know what you don't know, and you think that's what's kind of irritating.
When you come face to face with truth, then you react in an angry way. Like so oftentimes the reason when we turn a project down, it's for one of, I want to say 4 reasons. The first one is like overt sexuality, anything that's like not safe for work, adult games, party games with, dealing with sex or whatever. They're just not things that we will market. Then we have things that are overly sacrilegious. That's more of a personal thing for all of us. Is anything that we market all sorts of games that are, like wizards, and I've got games with like, I made a game with the devil in it, but you've got all sorts of games that just treat things that are sacred as common and as you like, if you build your entire, like for example, we have like an RPG that came to us a long time ago, that we're like, okay, you've got a town where all the priests are like Christian priests, but they're actually worshiping like the elder god, and they all turn into demons, and you have to kill them, and that's like this one shot RPG. It's like, I feel like pentagrams all over the thing, and it's just not something that gets me excited, and not saying that it's not possible for you to like fund something like that on crowdfunding. I mean, there are a lot of people that do things like that, but it just feels like kind of preachy in like the opposite sort of way, where it's preaching, and just kind of turns me off to projects like that. So we'll turn stuff like that down. So that's for overt sacrilegiousness, I guess.
Or political games where
Yeah.
it's kind of they're just kind of
Right.
drummed up to kind of inflame or insult people. And
Yeah, it's like if you bring me a game about how dumb the Prophet Muhammad is, I'm not taking that on. If you bring me a game that is all about Donald Trump being a dictator, I'm not taking that on. If you bring me a game about, I mean, those are just things that are like powder kegs that are going to blow up, and that's the whole purpose. Like the Possess Me Satan game that GameFound took on, that ended up getting Chad Kreisen fired from Board Game Geek, and all of that is like, I think they got like 600 backers, and it's a nothing burger game that is probably gonna spark and die. But having the opportunity to get a Reddit post or two that had 100,000 people like see it, that's exactly what those types of games need. And I don't want to be a part of games that make liberals angry, or make conservatives angry, or make Christians angry, or whatever. Like, if that is the appeal of the game, I don't want to be a part of it.
have you seen those like books on Amazon? It's like 100 reasons to be a Republican or 100 reasons to be a Democrat. It's just like it's a page with like it's empty pages. There's nothing on it. It's just designed to just annoy people. Yeah. So these products exist, and they probably need a term for them. I don't know what you call them.
Maybe
kind of
maybe
like
satire.
They're kind of like black propaganda, I suppose, is what you would kind of use. They're kind of sort of malicious kind of projects or communications which are designed for a political purpose.
Right. And then there are some games that will turn down. So low effort is another one that will turn projects down, which I'll come back to in a second. And then the last one is, sometimes we feel like a project is good but not a fit for our company. Like you have a $20 game that doesn't have much margin in it, and you want to go to Kickstarter. It's just, we do market games like that. Like, we market every one of Gabe Barrett's solo game of the month, and those are like between $20 and $40. But most often, but I feel like when the margins are really low, we just tend not to be able to get a good return. And so oftentimes, rather than just simply rejecting and saying, no, this isn't a good fit for us, we'll say, like, this looks like the margins are pretty thin, and it's probably not going to be a positive return if it costs you $20 to get a backer, and you're selling a bundle that's worth $30. It's like, it's like a money losing thing. So you need to market things like that differently. And so oftentimes very low margin products are not our thing. Or, like anything that's like a kid game, sometimes anything that's like a dexterity game, those tend not to do well crowdfunding, because oftentimes people that go to crowdfunding buy products for themselves, not necessarily for their families. Like, if they wanted to buy a game for their family, they would go to Target or the local board game store and spend 20 to 40 bucks there and get something immediately, or buy something on Amazon where they get it in 2 days or whatever. And buying something that it has to really be unique in an interesting way to do well crowdfunding. And we do a good job, I think, sorting through those, and we even talk about them as a team. So like Ryan oftentimes would be the first guy that sees a project, and if he's not sure, and a lot of the times if he's like even leaning toward this isn't a good fit, he will still share it. We have a channel in Google Spaces where we share all the projects that come in, and we'll talk about them and say, like, can we market this? And sometimes the answer is, yeah, I think we can. And other times it's like, oh, I really feel like we can't because of XYZ, right? So the problem sometimes when it comes to low effort projects in particular is that people want an explanation as to why, and or even things that are super, like lots of nudity or lots of like adult themes, we'll say, in projects. They'll like demand explanations, and I feel like the more explanation we give, the more they have to argue with, and it's like, ugh, I just feel like I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but at the same time, I don't want to market their you know what their not safe for work project or whatever.
I think some people can feel rather entitled. I don't know. I've always kind of approached all business almost with like this kind of anarcho-capitalist philosophy where the markets decide what and what they don't want to promote or do or want. And there's an element where you go to a business. I think we've become so used to, if I go to a business, they have to serve me. It's like, well, no, they can reject your service for any reason at all. So we don't feel like working today. They have that right under any circumstances to deny business. And I think sometimes people feel like they're owed an explanation. Well, it could just be that we're really busy and we just don't want to take on this new client. Like that could literally be it. So I don't. Sometimes it can be a bit frustrating that some people, and I think sometimes it's almost kind of engaging with that type of person. It's almost always a bad idea because they're just looking for leverage that they can then shoot on social media and kind of drum up drama. So that's something.
Yeah.
Look, it's going to happen with you as well as a publisher. You're going to have your customers are going to ask for reasons for why is this the case, and sometimes it's best not to engage with that, and sometimes you just got to kind of be aware that we kind of live in this digital age where anything you say, no matter how sort of private you think it is, can be blown up on the internet
and posted on the internet.
And then with all the kind of the way that social media is sort of optimized and commercialized through this kind of retention of attention, then it doesn't matter what the truth is anymore. It's just what's getting clicks, and then you can kind of, so it can very quickly spiral into something that isn't desirable.
Yeah. Attention retention. It sounds like conjunction junction. What's your function? I will say also, for those that are concerned, like, will Crowdfunding Nerds take my project on? We love to take on crowdfunding projects, and or e-commerce. We like to sell e-commerce stuff. And if you're cool and your project is cool, we're gonna find a way to make it work. We could be like, right now is probably one of the busiest times of the year for us because it's July and everybody wants to get their campaigns in, like, by the end of October. So, August and September are oftentimes very busy marketing months for all crowdfunding because of October launches. And even the summertime is a really busy time as well. But, so we're building a lot of landing pages. We're doing a lot of things in preparation for future campaign launches. And that's just kind of how it is. But if you come to me and you say, I've got a project, I've been working on it a long time. I've listened to like 60 episodes of the Crowdfunding Nerds, and I'm in your head all the time, and Sean's in your head all the time, just talking and reasoning through. And you really, really want to get us to market your campaign. Just remember, we do have rules. We have rules on quality, making sure your game is quality. And that's why we're going to get into low effort in a second and explain more about what that is. Quality, adult content, sacrilegious content that's like too sacrilegious. Like, some of it we understand. Like, you might have a necromancer that raises the dead or whatever. It's like, it's a fantasy game. If I can explain it by it's fantasy, it's not, whatever. But if that necromancer has like giant boobies and bikini armor and whatever, and it's very like what do you call that, where it's like very
salacious?
Yeah, I guess so. It's like, did it really need to be that way? It's like so anyway, it's not a guarantee that we take projects on, but if you're cool and your project is cool, we want to find a way to make it work. Okay, so one of the biggest things sometimes that actually I'll mention is timing. If you're like, hey, I want you to take my project on, but I launch in 3 weeks and I have no flexibility in the launch date, it's possible that we won't be able to get up and running in that time, like, just because of our bottlenecks, like how busy we all are on projects and whatnot. So we want to make sure that you reach out with enough time. So, and if you do reach out with enough time, we can make it work. So okay, so into low effort projects. Some of the big things that we turn down are things that copy other things. So if your idea is just like 3D chess, but chess is 2D, but you're making 3D chess, and it's not like some crazy epic version that is truly innovative. It's just you're just copying another thing that already exists.
Mm-hmm.
Or if your marketing messaging is if you have like tokens that you push across a board, and I don't really know exactly, it's very like an abstract game, and your marketing messaging is like, easier to learn than checkers and way deeper and harder to master than chess. It's like, well, I don't think that you understand what people like about this yet. It's very general. It's like, or you come to me with a trading card game, it's like better than Magic the Gathering. It's like, Magic the Gathering is like extremely well established, and there are tournaments guaranteed that you can go to at any local game store like during the week. Why would people buy into your trading card game versus just continue to play Magic, which they have people all across the world? And we've done trading card games before. We've marketed trading card games, and we've had success with them, but it's just there are real questions that we'll have, and if your art looks like bargain bin art or AI art or something because you wanted to save money, or trading card games are expensive. I mean, it's for that type of game, it's low effort, and everybody is going to notice because they're all comparing your game to what else is out there. If you've got like a space themed exploration adventure game, people are going to compare it to ISS Vanguard from Awaken Realms, and that's just what people do. So
so you're saying you won't like my Catan game, where it's like Catan except it's with a K?
Yeah, the racist Catan game,
just Katan. I think that would sell.
Yeah, well, Ku Klux Catan.
You went there. We wouldn't do that. It's political.
I wouldn't take it. I would not take that on. So so low effort is like, I've been working super hard for 6 months on this project, and then you show me the project and it looks like there's just nothing innovative about it. There's no rule book. The art looks like you asked a friend who's mildly skilled at art to do all of it for free, or you had AI do everything. It's it's crazy how you can just tell when something is done by AI. It's immediately apparent. It's not very apparent in a single image, but it's extremely apparent in like a dozen images that are all right next to each other. It's like, this is very low.
But I mean, like, it is improving. I saw a trailer for Arthas. They made like a little short film just with AI, and I have to say, it was pretty good. Like you could tell it was AI, and you kind of wish that they could like use this as like an example to make a real film, but it was pretty cool. So it's like, here's some guy in their basement with a computer making a better film than, I know, Legend when they brought the Warcraft film. So it was pretty cool, I have to say.
That is pretty cool. I'll have to check that out. I'm not saying that, there are people like for example, we did one game, I have it up on my shelf. What is it? Algamancy. Yeah, we did, and that was entirely AI art. And the artist, or the guy that created it, was actually Magic the Gathering pro player who has like a YouTube channel and whatnot, Caleb Gannon. And he is like an AI engineer and did all of the art that was for the game in AI. And then he did, I want to say 1,000 to 2,000 additional hours of painting on like all this to make sure like the 6 fingers were 5 fingers and the 2 rows of teeth were 1 row of teeth, and that kind of thing. But it was a fantasy game, and it did really well. Like it looked good. So to learn that it was AI was like, wow, that's impressive. So there are a lot of things that you can do with AI that are amazing. Just doing all of the art pieces for your game is just not a great way to make that happen typically. And there are always exceptions to every rule, but you're not allowed to use as an excuse, I don't have enough money, that's why I need to use AI art.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to go find the money or find a way around this problem, because there's just the market and the customers are gonna see, they're gonna notice, and you're like, this is the best I can do. The best you can do if you're not willing to invest into art is might not be good enough,
Yeah.
honestly. So that's
And I
why
think
we
there's
would try to
maybe this
find
is a
something like
danger of like, I don't know, like the millennial. We kind of all
that.
grew
Yeah.
up with this Disney-fied view. I can be whatever I want to be if I just apply myself. It's like, it's not true. It's not reality. Sorry to say.
I would disagree. I think it is true. I just think that what it means to apply yourself is going to drag you through the ninth circle of hell. It's like,
you do have some limiting factors. If you kind of grew up in a communist country where, you know, there's literally no way to make things a reality. Like there are some limiting factors just on environment and other things as well. But yeah, I do think some people just don't have the finances to create certain projects. It does take a big investment. So maybe the solution there is to find a publisher. It's not to kind of self-publish. So yeah, you can get your project off the ground, but if you can't afford art, find a publisher. That's kind of maybe the path forward then.
Yeah. We've had clients that have run several campaigns, like for example, Evan Diaz with Nimble RPG. He ran like a number of crowdfunding campaigns before he came to us, and he was listening to our podcast the whole time, and he was doing what he could. And I remember one of his most recent campaigns raised like $14,000 before he came to us, but it was like just enough that he was like, all right, I can do this with Nimble RPG. And his Nimble RPG campaign, I think I could be wrong, but I think it was his 5th crowdfunding campaign that raised $1.1 million. And it was just his time. It was an amazing game that needed like a slow boil to grow. A lot of people they really hope for that explosive $1 million plus, this changes my life type funding. But it's just one of those things that you may have to be like, the middle class crowdfunding campaign guy, which works a full-time job and raised $100,000 on Kickstarter, which now allows you to make the game, but not to quit your job.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing. And I want to say, like, anybody that starts a business saying, I don't have enough money to do this, I don't have enough money to do that, before you even start the business, you're making the product. It's like, man, you're going to eventually say, like, if you don't have enough money to do AI art and your mindset is wrong, or your base, your setup, that your foundation is not yet built, you can't build a second story house without like a foundation. It's you need a secure foundation before you move forward, right? So there you go. And sometimes, moving into like first time creator pride, when people hear that, nobody likes it when somebody calls your baby ugly, but as a marketing agency, you're not paying us to say your product is amazing. It's like the emperor's new clothes. The emperor was given the parable is that the emperor was given invisible clothing by his
Subjects.
his tailor,
His privy council.
that were like, yeah. And so he was convinced that his clothing was like the newest style, and he went and rode a horse out in front of everybody, and he's just naked. And they're like, oh my goodness, what is this guy doing? And you don't want a marketing team to tell you that your idea is amazing and that there's nothing wrong with it. You want us to critically think and say, this is where you're going to experience challenges. And there are plenty of times where it's like, you can't invest into every single thing. You're not going to be able to have, a $10,000 Kickstarter trailer for, done by Ori Kagan or David Diaz or whatever for your first project, maybe, because you just don't have the budget for all of that. But what you do have the budget for are like the essential things. And given what you can do, there are certain things you can't, and that's totally okay to say, oh, I'm going to skip a video, or I'm going to do it myself because that's going to help me save a ton of money. But there are going to be challenges, right? Like, more people would be convinced if you had a $20,000 trailer, probably. But if that's not in the cards, then just you don't even worry about it. But there are certain things that are essential, like for example, having reviews or having a gameplay video or having your rule book on the Kickstarter page or having like a somewhat decently designed, story, having a physical prototype, a lot of other things. And if you run, or even like an email list or a follower list that is ready to back your project, you can't just launch your crowdfunding campaign and the whole field of dreams, if you build it they will come. That doesn't work. And there are a lot of people that are too prideful to receive this feedback, and they're like, fine, I'm not using you guys. Like, they have enough money but not enough of the rest, not enough substance. And they're like, well, I'm just going to use a different company because you guys are telling me things that I don't want to hear. I think one of the worst things that we can do is take a client on. Yeah. If we flatter and then take a client on and say, you're going to be awesome, the market will show you the truth. The free market, the people that back on Kickstarter are going to like it or not like it. They're going to back it or not back it. And that is the moment of truth. Everybody has that. When you hit the launch button, no matter how well you've prepared and everything, there's this moment that's like, are people going to like my thing? Or are they going to not? And what's going to happen? And that is going to show you the truth. And so the worst thing that we could do is tell you everything's going great, and then you launch to crickets. We don't want that to happen. We don't want to take your money and launch and have nothing happen, because then it's like we're 3 months down the road and you're going to be even more angry because we've been telling you, oh, this is great, and we've been taking your money, which is our incentive to tell you it's great, and so we just don't operate that way.
We also have to be careful not to deprecate a certain project as well, because there's also times where this works on the other end where we might think, I'm not sure about this one, but then they surprise us. So we have to sort of have this balanced view. And again, it's really about the market. So what we try to help our clients do is help them work out what the market is saying. So we present the information, let them come to their own conclusion. So I try not to tell our clients how to think or what to think. I try to show them the information, let them come to their own conclusion, or I might suggest certain possibilities. But nevertheless, I think it's very important. One of the best ways that this can be done is also by surveying like your community, your kind of your email list and so on and so forth. That's a good way to get kind of information that doesn't necessarily have the same sort of financial incentives as a marketing agency does, or even you as a publisher who has money on the line. So that could be a good way to kind of get good feedback about a project or certain decision that you're trying to make.
One thing that I think is toward the end of my list, but blame shifting is something that really grinds my gears. And one of the worst ways that so if I were to take on a client and if our company takes on a client and it's not going well, meaning we design a landing page, you do everything right, according to what we think is good, and then we launch the ads and we're getting emails, but it's just like $10 per email. It's like, man, this is not going well. Like, we need these under $2.50 to make them, or to kind of hit our benchmarks. These other projects are at like 85 cents per email, and that one's at $2.40 per email and whatever. Then this client's project is $10 an email, and then we make changes and we get it down to $5.50 an email. It's like, man, this is still not going very well. What we will not do is we will not let that campaign go for 2 months and then launch without you knowing how the numbers are performing. So we oftentimes have a weekly meeting where we catch up with our clients so that they know what's happening and when, because if things aren't going well, oftentimes we're going to be able to figure out why. We're going to get insight into using the data that we gather and the feedback that you get from people. You're going to be able to figure out kind of why it's not resonating with people. And we will recommend that you pause the ads and get your stuff in order or fix the thing or whatever it is, and then come back. And then that the fees that you paid are not wasted. They are also, you're not having to pay the rest of the fee, but you can, when you fix the problem, you tell us what it is. We fix the landing page or whatever. And then you get good numbers. It could be a marketing messaging, it could be the targeting, it could be, the art, is not complete and you launched a little early or whatever. There are a lot of, or maybe like what is cool about the game is not really being showcased like it should be, a lot of different reasons why that could be, but we're always going to try to stop you early. And the absolute worst thing that we can do is like have you say, no, we're continuing. And then 3 months in when you launch and nobody backs your campaign, you blame us and then we turn around and blame you. It's like, that's the worst thing. I hate being in a position like that. I do not like to play the blame game. And what I would much rather do is take responsibility for what my role is as early as possible, so that my, I feel like I owe that to my clients to be, or to our clients, right, to be like transparent and open and honest and not, abdicate responsibilities like, oh, this is all your fault. Sometimes we have clients that will be upset with us, but we do a really good job for the most part in like stopping those things before, that we stop the train before it becomes a crash. And it's very few that of cases that happens, but in the end, we're supposed to be your advocate. We're supposed to be the person in the seat that is helping you. You're the bus driver and we're just in the marketing seat, and we're trying to get you to the end point, but you're the one driving, and we need to call out, hey, there are potholes on the road. Hey, the bridge is out. You're going to have to you're going to have to stop the bus and do some bricklaying. Yeah. So anyway, that just,
shifting blame is very easy for a marketing agency to blame a product, saying, oh, it's just the product, and then like not try anything. And it's very easy for the publisher to say it's the marketing agency is the problem. So, there has to be a level of taking responsibility here and trying. And this is where I think that kind of blame shifting happens when you're not working collaboratively. And this is kind of thing that grinds my gears, where people kind of give us money. They expect us to kind of do everything, and there is no kind of collaboration. And this is often kind of paired with scope creep. So it's like, oh, I paid you money, so now do all the things, and whatever needs to be done, just do it. It's like, well, there are kind of limits to our agreement that we've decided the type of work that we're doing with you. So I can point out problems, doesn't necessarily mean going to like provide the solution. That's something that the client will have to address. But I think when you start seeing blame shifting, it's because there's some type of attitude where it's not a collaborative, when we should be working together. It's like we're both on the same team here. If you prosper, we prosper, and vice versa. So what is not working here, and what can we change to make this? And this is maybe what separates us from a lot of our competition, is that we do seek long-term relationships with our clients. We don't want to have a client for 2 months and never see them again. Ideally, we want to see that client for 2 months. They come back with another project. We see them for another 2 months. And eventually, they have a store and we're running their e-commerce. That's kind of our business model. It's just based off long-term, sustainable, building trust with clients. So we kind of want to help every step of the way and to build those strong relationships, because that's kind of our entire business model is predicated upon your success and longevity. So I think what I try to do is always approach it with some type of collaborative approach. And some people don't. They just don't want to even think about anything. They just kind of want to give you the marketing kind of organization, and then move on to other things, which unfortunately you can do that to a certain capacity. That's why you've hired us. But ultimately, there's going to be certain decisions that the publisher will have to make and will have to kind of lead in terms of that, unless you hire a dedicated marketing person, which you can only do if you're a certain size. And then yes, you can just have a marketing person that you can blame for everything.
Hey, Crowdfunding Nerds, it's Andrew Lowen, and I wanted to introduce you guys to the Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. If you don't know, we have a do-it-yourself course system that will teach you how to build, excite, and prepare a crowd to fund you on your launch day, and that is our goal. I have used these systems to help raise over $30 million for tabletop campaigns, over 200 tabletop crowdfunding campaigns since 2019. I've generated over $100 million through e-commerce sales using these processes. These courses teach you how to replicate our results. They're made for the small creator. Over 150 of those people were first-time creators. These courses contain hundreds of hours of podcast discussions and tons of details that are almost impossible to find on the internet. And they have been distilled into concentrated courses that you can absorb quickly. They are designed to generate results. We hold nothing back. Visit crowdfundingnerds.com/academy to learn more, or just Google search Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. Back to the show. Yeah, I'll say from the creator standpoint, I was fulfilling my first deliverance campaign, and one of my I guess UK just fulfillment house was they were in charge of fulfilling to not only the UK, but this is after Brexit, so they were fulfilling to the UK, but also the European Union, and they there were problems like the whole way with blame shifting and lack of responsibility. So their goal, it just felt like every part of the process was whoever I was communicating with, like the freight person, the freight forwarder person, or whatever, they were like, yeah, you didn't get us this form that we needed. And so all of my stock went to every fulfillment hub and got shipped out on time, except the UK and Europe was like 2 months later or a month later because they were delayed because of this like lack of a form. I'm like, dude, why didn't you tell me this? And they're like, we did. And I went back and I saw that I received an email that was like, these are the things we needed. And I provided them everything except for that one thing. It's like, man, that was like a month ago and you guys just didn't tell me that you were missing that. Kind of stinks, like it would have been really nice if you were like, hey, we're ready, except we really need that one thing. Just send me an email response, like, please, don't be like, all right, we got him off our plate, we're not doing anything until he finishes that last little bit. It's like, well, I have like deadlines and whatnot, and it would have been nice as a first-time creator to get a little more hand-holding, but okay, all right. So I get it done. And so I catch them like, where's my stock hasn't been picked up yet. And they're like, oh, that's because you didn't give us the form. It's like, well, here's the form, and then we get the stuff on the boat and they're like, okay, so we have it in the warehouse and we're, it's in the UK warehouse. And now we're going to fulfill to the UK and we're going to airship everything to Europe. I'm like, wait, air freight is very expensive. It's like, you're going to fly it over on an airplane and just to the whatever post office and they're going to deliver. That's going to be like $40 a package. That's really expensive, and like if I did a container, it would have been $2 a package plus whatever it was to ship, like, let's just say $20 or $25 a package. So I'm losing like $13 to $15 per package, and there are like 1,000 of them. So that's a $13,000 to $15,000 thing that you're doing that is just costing me a ton of money. And why would you do that? Like, you quoted me numbers that were different than this, and like, well, and we can have it at our warehouse, but it's at a different rate and it's very expensive. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I ripped all of that. I contacted a European publishing house, which was Happy Shops, took all of the European stock, had them pick it up from the UK fulfillment house's warehouse. So Happy Shops was able to then fulfill it and rescue, me from a $15,000 decision that this other fulfillment house made. The whole time they were not very, they just didn't accept any, not just responsibility, but they shifted the blame to me, or said, that's what you agreed to, or that's what we decided to do. You decided to trust us and we decided to do that. It's like, well, that's might have been easier on you guys, but that's very expensive for me. So obviously you guys don't care about me. And I got the heck out of there and do not recommend that company and won't even say their name on this podcast because I'll probably get mad. But
it's like Voldemort.
Yeah.
Which should not be named.
Seriously. So I'll tell you who I am using in the UK right now is Zatu. Zatu is who I'm currently using. But there are other good companies as well. But so anyway, that has been very frustrating on the creator's side. And another thing that's really grinds my gears, especially on the creator side, but not just that, is negative comments. Mm-hmm. Negative comments about my game, about my, me as a person, or whatever I share, just negativity. I remember I was talking to this guy, Travis Chance, he used to work for Colossal, he was president of Colossal Games for a long time. He's done a bunch of different Kickstarters and crowdfunding campaigns, and he's designed a ton of games and is a really cool dude in the board game industry. He said, he actually wrote on his just Facebook page, he said that 1 to 2 times a year he knows that he should not get goaded into a mudslinging contest by some negative comment that a backer will write. But 1 to 2 times a year, he falls prey and responds. And I find that is about the same amount of times that I will respond to somebody. I always say that, you don't want to roll in the mud with the pigs, because you'll both get dirty, and only the pigs like it. So somebody that is, just railing against your company and saying what a terrible job you're doing, or how little they care about you as a human, they just want your product. Those are all opportunities to fly off the handle and tell them what you really think. And you should not do that. But man, sometimes it's hard. You had a long day, you need a nap and some food, and you are just, your skin is thin and you're just upset. Man, it's so easy to just respond, especially when the person leaves themselves really, really open for an easy, sick burn. It's like, man, it's just,
that's when you create an anonymous account.
Yeah.
But I think there's an important note that you have to, your disadvantage as a publisher, and even us, as marketing agency, you must always be professional. You must always be professional. Like, this is your job. You should treat it like a job, even if it isn't like a full-time job. You must always be professional. And I think, the customer doesn't need to be professional. They are in a different, they could say that they're in a privileged position where they could just say whatever they want. It doesn't matter, because there's thousands of publishing companies that they can purchase games from. But you have to always be professional. You always have to treat people with respect and dignity. And it's a disadvantage of just being in this position. With great power comes great responsibility. So, I do think that it's always very important that no matter how you conduct yourself, and we even see this with like business to business, you get some people that just don't act very professional. But I always try and strive my best to be professional. When it can be tempted to blame, shift, or to say something snarky or imply something, which you always got to try my best to maintain that professionality. And I think that kind of shows itself. It goes a long way.
Yeah, actually, what's funny, there was a post that was recently on Board Game Reviewers and Media. I have it right here. That is like, how do you deal with rude and mean comments? And this guy has a small YouTube channel and had somebody write out like, all the reasons they think this channel is not going to be successful, and that the camera was unfocused and blurry. You were too hurried in explaining the rules, used way too much jargon. It doesn't feel like you're good at the game. And it's like remedial, visually muddy, remedial, underinformed gameplay and commentary. It's like getting a class taught by someone who just got a C on their test and the projector focus is broken. That's like pretty,
well, some of that sounds
harsh.
Some of that seems actionable. It's like, okay, focus the camera.
So maybe, and oftentimes what I find is
there's a sliver of truth in the criticism.
Yes. So there is often a sliver of truth, and I latch onto that as a publisher. When I respond to people that are, just really kind of jerky in their comment or very abrupt, most often it's very abrupt, but it can hurt my feelings if it's like very easy to hurt my feelings. Sometimes if the conditions are right. So I latch on to the, the one element of kernel of truth that's in there, and say, I will work on that. Maybe I needed to wipe the lens or something. Maybe there's a smudge on the lens that was causing it not to focus well, or I'll make sure to double check that. Thank you. And you can actually start to win those people over by saying, please, let me know in our next video. I'll take some of that feedback of yours and try to implement it in our next video. Please let me know how, if it's better. And sometimes they will. And, sometimes they're just like gone and, you can't help it. But other times that individual person that wrote those things that are pretty harsh, you can turn that person into your biggest fan. And they're like, wow, it's way improved and blah, blah, blah. And they start to become sort of a cheerleader for you and really a source of encouragement. That is super duper important and valuable. I've earned many a fan by responding with grace. Now, another thing is all what you respond is seen by many others other than you. You respond in a public forum or a Facebook post or a Kickstarter comment section or whatever it is. What you write is going to be read by dozens or hundreds or thousands of people. And they will look at that person and say, is that person crazy or not? And how did the creator respond? And you can actually win a lot of favor from your backers by responding with grace. Or oftentimes if you don't respond at all, you can win, your backers will defend you, if you're not doing anything wrong, if it's good or whatever, they'll say something like that. So it's really important that you recognize that you are sort of the one that everyone is looking at. And, you need to make sure that you're not just falling victim to just people, the people goading you into a reaction. We've been a part of several campaigns where people have kind of goaded our client into like a flame war, and it just isn't, it's just not healthy for the project or client. It's just never healthy for the project or the client. I have been regularly, I'll get people on Board Game Geek that, if I respond in a thread, people will, flame me because forums are just, even if you're not anonymous, it's just so far from somebody sitting across the table from you having a conversation that people can be really rude and people can throw accusations at you super quick. Like I called somebody, I said, hey, stop trolling to somebody. And then they were like, how dare you call me a troll? And this is such an egregious insult. It's like, okay, like, are we talking on the internet right now? Or like, what's happening right now? Like, I didn't even mean that as an insult, but of course the person takes maximum offense. And it's like, this is my opportunity to just, again, now, if I respond in a way that's like, you idiot, then I'm rolling in the mud with pigs. And again, the pigs, they like getting dirty. But here I am in my nice, Deliverance sweatshirt. I don't want to get that dirty, right?
I think you have to be cautious of taking anonymous criticism too seriously. I think there's a level of, I'm all for privacy and people being anonymous and protecting certain information. But it does come certain things that you have to do in society which requires you not to be anonymous. Running a business is one of those. You have to have a level of transparency so people just have trust. Like you have to basically put your reputation on the line when you're dealing with business, because if you don't fulfill your promises, well, then people need to be able to call you out in the kind of community and say this person's not trustworthy. Yeah. So I think being anonymous on the internet really emboldens people to be very aggressive. So I just got to keep that in mind. And I tend to sort of take anonymous criticism as less valuable than when people actually have a stake in the game. There's a difference between like a pseudo anonymous person on Board Game Geek versus someone on Facebook who's using their real name and who's kind of offering feedback. It's going to have a different level of, I suppose, weight to it. And I think too many people are emboldened by sort of anonymous posting to say things which are snarky and mean.
Yeah, there was like that we had in a board game group, somebody asked about the Crowdfunding Nerds anonymously. And this happens sometimes, like if they reach out to us as a client, they may not want their name to be known if they get a bunch of negative feedback and then decide to reach out to us anyway or whatever. Well, anyway, this was all very positive feedback. And so like a person reached out anonymous. It was like, what's your experience with crowdfunding nerds? And that happens pretty regularly, that someone will ask that question, most often not anonymously. But all the comments were positive. Like, it was super cool. Like, I really appreciate whenever you guys see how is crowdfunding nerds and whatever. Like, we really try hard for our clients. And so it feels really good just to see all the positive comments on the internet whenever somebody asks about our company. And then there was one, I don't want to say it wasn't a negative comment, but it was like a neutral sus comment from somebody that I consider a little bit of a troublemaker. And that just made me wonder, like, and I could ask the person in the group to tell me who that was. I didn't or anything, but it's like anonymity doesn't go that far on Facebook. But
especially if you know the group admins.
Right. Yeah, I know all the group admins. So but I don't want to, like, poke holes or anything.
It was strange because it was a lot of positive comments, and this is great. This is like, I was thinking this is a great post to kind of stay up on this group for us, because when someone searches us, they're going to see all these positive comments. But then the post was deleted. That seems strange when it's deleted, the post. Because it's almost like they were asking so that they could try and build negative comments and keep that there.
It's like, was this like a competitor trying to drag our name through the mud or something?
Yeah, it was quite strange.
Yeah. So. And then like the one mid comment was I was like, did that person post or whatever? And it's like, I just don't have time to think about all of that. Like, we're so busy as is. But it does grind my gears a little bit. And in regard to communication, so this is very important. If you want to work with us as a marketing agency, communication is key. If you want to run a business that is in crowdfunding, communication with your backers is key. You need to be able to communicate on a timely manner, and you need to be able to share the information they're asking for and all of that. So when we have a client that is like, all right, I need to get started right now, we're like, okay, we send them information, like, give us this information, or just whatever, sign the contract, or send us your landing, your game assets so that we can put your landing page together, or fill out this, just give me 3 paragraphs on what makes your game interesting or innovative or whatever, how it works. And then they ghost us for like a month. And we will follow up every week. Like, we have, our team will follow up sometimes multiple times a week, because you told us how important this was to get this done, and we're going to be on it. We're gonna show you our quality, and that we're gonna get back to you right away, and we're gonna match your energy. But then, like, people just ghost, and whatever's happening on their end, like the graphic artist is not getting them the assets they need or whatever, they're not telling us. And so they're just like, they'll suddenly reach out 1 month later and be like, oh, where's my landing page? Or, oh, I really need. It's like, dude, we have reached out to you 8 times this month, and all of a sudden you're freaking out that you're not live, or you're going to go live next week. And why are you suddenly, it's you, before we went live, you actually said, use the tortoise and the hare analogy. It's like, we would much rather that you would be a tortoise that moves slow and steady than the hare that moves super duper fast and then stops for a rest. So yeah, it's it drives me crazy when people ghost us, but they're like, they tell us how important it is that we get it done on time and everything. It's just super duper, drives me crazy.
I think as well as like respecting people's time, we don't get this too often, but sometimes it feels like you get an essay in like an email. It's like, wow, that's a lot of reading and comprehension. It's like you've asked 20 questions. It's almost always better to just have like 1 or 2 questions to kind of quickly go back and forth. And this is something I've become very aware of, even in my communications. I want to make sure I don't bombard people. So some of our clients, for example, Chris Birch from Modifius, he's a very busy person, and I know this. So when I need him to do something, I always have like a too long didn't read. Like, this is what's happening. I need you to do X and Y. Try and make
in bold
like,
at the top.
Just like, yeah, bold. And then it's like, here's the full explanation. And then he has the ability to read the full explanation, or kind of give his approval on the thing that needs to be done. So I think that's kind of respecting people's time, but then also giving them the opportunity to read longer. And I think that can sometimes grind my gears, where it's like we should just jump on a call at this point, because you've asked like 20 questions, and I've got to now comprehend what you're saying, respond intelligibly. It's like we should just jump on a call at this point.
Yeah. And then there are those people that send, what grinds my gears is there are those people that send an email with 20 questions, and then you're like, hey, let's just hop on a call. They're like, no, I don't have time for that. Like, well, I don't have time to answer 20 questions via email, Yeah. Like, let's just hop on a 5-minute call and I can answer your questions. And sometimes when people send it, and we really try to be aware of these clients, it doesn't happen very often, but when you send us 20 questions via email, and you won't meet with us, or you're not content to wait for the weekly meeting, which is in 2 days or whatever, or you didn't ask that on the weekly meeting that was yesterday, and it's not critically important to the, it just feels like these are people that are going to like absolutely obliterate our time, and they're going to make us work 12-hour days. They're not going to, they're not going to pay anything more for it, but they expect us to adopt to their communication style rather than them adopting to the way that we do business. It's just not conducive to a good long-term relationship.
Which is fine if we were a one-client agency, which we're not.
So yeah, if you're paying us $25,000 a month, then
you have my full attention. I'll respond to you no matter when.
Yeah, it's like if you quit, then 3 employees have to go, or whatever, like that type of thing. I've been in that situation before, and I hated it. Because those people really, clients that think they're all that, they knew that I really, really needed their retainer, and they took advantage of that, and it was just rough. There are some that actually still act that way, where they might have a really big IP, or they might think that they're kind of a big deal in the industry, and they are they really try to take advantage of, like, in essence, they ask for free services without asking. And that's something that we want to operate and do our very best for someone. But if they are taking all of the time and not appreciating the extra effort we put in, then we'll either stop putting the extra effort in, or we'll like sever the client relationship in the more extreme cases. And there's one example of, one that just really comes to mind of like a person that's very well known in the industry, has a really cool evergreen title that we've worked on and raised, several $100,000 for them in one Kickstarter. And they expected too much for free, and they were completely shocked when it was like, oh yeah, that you wanted that extra thing that's going to cost this, live Kickstarter campaign ads that actually costs for 1 extra month of ads. And they're like, oh, this isn't what you told me. I'm like, it costs every month. If you want us to be contracted every month, then you have to pay every month. And they're like, this is not what I was expecting. It's not like they didn't have the money. They had plenty of money to pay a $600 fee. I think it was only $500 at the time. And it was like, I guess, I could have eaten my hat and just said, I will, kiss the ring, as the saying goes, and I would have had that client to this day, probably. Or I could have said, no, this actually does cost, and maybe it would have been a great client, but I don't think so, because of the way that they were treating me. But the opportunity cost of keeping that client was probably keeping 2 or 3 others. The capacity of like $1,500 a month in free time, having to be dedicated to one client that's only willing to pay $500 and is going to ride me hard, like a cowboy riding his prized stallion, or more like a bandit riding some other cowboy's prized stallion. He's going to ride that stallion until it dies, and then he's going to get another one. He's going to steal another one. Those types of relationships, man, I do not want any of them. I want those clients to go away. And so people expecting things for free, this happens on the creator side too, where people are like, oh, you shouldn't have this 2 versions. You should give me a version of the base game and a version with the expansion that doesn't include minis, and then a version of the expansion that does include minis, and then give me the one with the scenario book as well, or one without the scenario book. And it's like, dude, I need to make 2 units instead of like 5 different SKUs they're going to be very expensive to produce that way. And people will nerd rage at you and be like, oh, I'm never shopping here again, and just let those people go. They really grind my gears.
One final thing that grinds my gears is I call it the big IP bribe. So it's like, well, if you work well for us, we've got this IP over here, and we'll let you work with it. When you're marketing things, you tend to work on big IPs all the time. So maybe I think big IPs are maybe more of a novelty for publishers. You might only have a couple of big IPs, but for us, we work on tons of big IPs. So the kind of incentive to like, oh, you could work on this big IP. It's like, oh, okay. That's not really motivating me. Kind of just more of an insult, but I don't really
hanging a carrot on a stick and saying, if you work like a slave for me on this project, then maybe I'll reward you with a little big IP down the road.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to the collaboration thing we talked about earlier. You want to collaborate with your business partners, not to kind of treat them like, I don't know, there's some slave and then you've got some kind of jingling some keys or some incentive, because also it kind of dishonors our word. If we have made an agreement with you to provide this service for this price, and now you're trying to add to that agreement with some type of incentive, that can be good, but I actually find it more kind of disrespectful to the agreement we have set. Like we've told you this is fair pricing, this is what our expectations is, and we've signed and agreed to that. And I feel like sometimes it comes out of a good place, sometimes I think it comes out of a nefarious place. But either way, I don't really like the kind of, the incentive structure of, because as far as I'm concerned, if you've signed an agreement with us, we're going to work as hard as we can for you over that period of time.
Yeah.
With or without any kind of a bonus incentive.
Yeah, I remember when Modifius, a long time ago now, launched Skyrim. It was like I want to say one of our first $1 million campaigns. They raised like 1.6 million euros or something. And it was one of the very first projects that GameFound took that was public. I can't remember exactly what the deal was, but I think it was back in 2020 or maybe it was 2021. But there was someone that asked me like, wow, Skyrim smashed it. How much money did you make? And it was like, I think we made like $3,000 or $4,000 total on a campaign that raised like 2 million almost. And it was, and I even backed it. Like I spent my own money to back it as well, like because it was just really good. And like, a lot of the time big IPs and first time creator projects, there's very little difference in the amount of revenue into our company. And so we will, we really want to treat the first time creator and the person who has that big IP the exact same. We want to give 5-star premium service to both people. And that's the kind of company that we want to be. And a lot of people aren't used to a marketing company that really tries to live up to what we say and really tries to care about your project as much as you do. But we're creators too. So we understand what it's like on the other side and how important it is to make sure that your project is taken care of, because you've only got one shot at a really great Kickstarter campaign or crowdfunding campaign. And, that's, you can always relaunch or whatever, but still, when we're on board, we're going to put forth our very best effort, and we're with you, really are. And a lot of marketing companies aren't that way. A lot of people aren't used to others behaving in that manner. And sometimes they react like wounded animals, and you got to figure out, like, are they, a wounded animal that is able to be like healed, or are they a wounded animal that needs to be, put down or dropped off on an island by itself somewhere? So yeah. One other thing kind of on a related note, but it really, really grinds my gears, is when somebody tries to quote unquote split the risk with us. They're like, I have this really, really great idea. I made a prototype, whatever. If you front all the marketing and basically market, instead of charging us for your services, charge us nothing, and then we'll pay you. We'll even split the profits 50-50. It's like, what you're asking me to do is take on all the risk, all the time, all the effort, and all the energy. And then if it doesn't work out, you lost nothing, and I lost everything I invested. But if it does work out, then I have to trust you, who the money gets dropped into your bank account, to then give me 50% of whatever amount. What if it's a huge number? What if you raise $5 million? Like, what then? Are you going to give me 2.5? You know? And I do not trust anybody to do that. In fact, there was a company one time that told me that I said, I'll take 5% of whatever I do on your Amazon sales. They had made $4,000 a month for the last 10 years on their Amazon sales. And they were like, oh, we'll just see what happens. And I made the mistake of not signing a contract with them. And we raised, it ended up going between $200,000 to $400,000 a month is where we got them. And I earned the right and privilege to continue working for them at the same exact rate. That's literally all. And it was one of the most egregious times I've been treated that way. I lost, tens of thousands of dollars a month, probably into my personal, like at the time, I think I had 3 employees total, like maybe 2 employees plus me. It was a massive, massive monetary mistake. And so now people are like, oh, why don't you function in the same way that like Gelop does or whatever, these other companies that will charge you a commission and whatnot. It's like, because I've been down that road before and I have been burned so hard that we're just going to charge you for service and perform excellent service. And if you crush it, we've had many campaigns that have raised 7 figures, then great. I'm very happy for you. Use us again, like continue using us for your e-commerce and whatnot. Refer us, and that's much more, it's much better to me.
Yeah. Glowing reviews. If someone creates an anonymous post on a Facebook group, that's much appreciated. So yeah, I think people show their appreciation in other ways, which aren't financial, which I think we notice, we see, and we greatly appreciate. So thanks to all our listeners for your cool feedback. Now,
heck yeah.
When you are stressed and you're reading all these negative comments and you want to flip into a rage, you need some relaxing music. And there's no better place to find relaxing music than with the Table Tone app. So go to tabletone.app, download it. It's free. Listen to some relaxing music. Get into the right mood before you leave your reply and your comment.
That's awesome. If Enya is not cutting it for you anymore, then tabletone.app. I'll also say one other call to action that I would like you guys to do something about. Our Crowdfunding Nerds Facebook page has we only have like 2 reviews. We don't really care about it that much, but there's somebody that's like, you rejected my project, so you must hate veterans that fought for your freedom, and they left a do not recommend. I does not recommend. So I kind of it's one of those, if you want to see an example of a negative comment that sort of set me off, go there. And if you wouldn't mind, if you've used our services or you find even our podcast information valuable, please leave a recommendation for us on our Facebook page. It would be nice to just bury that one in all the positive reviews that we get on the internet. So
we might get some more negative ones.
What you said was mean, So, but we trust you guys. We appreciate you guys for listening. And again, as always, leave a 5-star review or a thumbs up or whatever on YouTube or Spotify.
Do the things.
Yes, and then we will see you on the next episode, nerds. Later. Hey, Crowdfunding Nerds, if you're looking for an awesome fulfillment partner for U.S. shipping, you should really consider Bridge Distribution and Fulfillment. I personally use them. I've used them for multiple projects. They do such a great job. They also can fulfill Amazon orders and get you prepped for Amazon and their warehousing team. I have been so happy using Bridge Distribution. I'm really proud that they're sponsoring us. If you reach out, bridgedist.com, that's bridgedist.com, let them know we sent you.